in between the 8th century BC and the 13th century AD for almost 2,000 years, occasionally raiding developed and rich countries in the south. Carpathian Basin has been a convenient place of residence for many nomadic tribes that have been living on livestock farming and headed towards the west because of the migration of tribes. The leading tribes that put an end to the years-long migration and established empires and states here are Scythians and Sarmatians. Later on, Attila's Huns and Avar settled in these lands. And they are followed by the Magyars, Hungarians. In this documentary, while we will seek after our bonds with our relatives in Hungary, sometimes we will catch a glimpse of some people we know. Here is Uncle Mehmet in Anatolia, Brother Ahmet, Aunt Fatma. In this documentary, Cumans, or in other words, Kipchak Turks in Hungary, will be introduced, and the similar customs of Anatolian Turks, Magyars and Huns, the traditions, daily objects, the tracks of Ottomans in Hungary, and mutual words in 2 languages will be examined.
For example, İronçuk tribe has been settled here. İronçuk means little snake in ancient Cuman language.
For centuries, Hungarian plains have witnessed the raids and the migrations of mounted tribes coming from the east. Following the Huns and the Arpats, the Cumans settled on these plains, being the 3rd wave of immigrants from Central Asia to this region. The Cumans today forgot Kipchak Turkic, the language of their forefathers who migrated to the Hungarian plains 800 years ago. But they know very well that they are Cumans and where their ancestors have come from. According to the Hungarian sources, 2 biggest nations that form ethnical structure of Cumans, clans of Cuman and Sarı, have come to the western steppes from Inner Asia in 1012. Around 1020 they have sealed an alliance with Kimak and Kipchak tribes living there. Meanwhile, Cuman and Sarı tribes have confederated with the Kipchak Turks, forming the 3rd biggest ring of their ethnical chain. This union, having been resulted from political goals, have brought along the unity in ethnic identity and language, and the name Cuman has become the common name of the confederation. Cumans headed towards Hungary after the invasions of the Mongolian armies between 1223 and 1238. Having been defeated by Mongolians, Kipchak Turks, also known as Cumans, were obliged to escape to the west, and their chieftain, Köten, requested sanctuary from the Hungarian king. Since the Cumans' escape from Mongols was in accord with the ambition of Hungarian King Bela IV of gaining more power against the nobles and the upcoming Mongol threat, the Cumans' request was accepted. The king went to the border to welcome them, conducting a ceremony and show them great respect, such as the residents of the country have never seen or heard before. This moment of meeting became immortalized in the great Cuman Millennium Monument that was built in Kargak city in 2001. In 1246, King Bela IV made a new agreement with the Cumans, and in compliance with the customs of the era, he clinched this agreement with a marriage bond. He wedded his son and heir Istvan IV with the daughter of Cuman Prince Erzsébet. Chieftain Köten reinforced the army of the Hungarian king with his soldiers. In exchange for having the same rights as the Hungarian aristocrats, Cumans had to fight with the king. They were applying Eastern tactics in combat, and they were a considerable force in the royal army. But big landowners and the ecclesiarchs didn't like the shamanist Cumans gaining strength. As a solution to this, the church requested that they should be settled definitely and Christianized. In 1279, when the first and second Cuman laws went into effect, the Cumans left the shaman practice and accepted Christianity as their religion. The priorities and the rights given them by Lajlo IV, assuring that they could live as free peasants, were in progress until 1848. In Kichkunsang, meaning Little Cumania, and Nagykuksang, meaning Great Cumania, the Cumans had enormous lands. The king didn't meddle in the distribution of these lands among the Cumans. They were directly subjected to the second man after the king, Nador, and they had autonomy. As a matter of fact, with the purpose of not losing their autonomy, they didn't marry Hungarians for centuries. This also helped them preserve the Cuman culture for a long period of time.
My forefathers fought for their freedom. They were from the southern part of the country. My grandfather was born in Tolna. He was a real shepherd. My father was a shepherd too. They pastured their herds here in the prairies of Little Cumania.
This is a very nice place. Where are we and what is the importance of this place for the Cumans?
Kishkun-Felekaza was the administration center of 8 Little Cuman settlements, and this building belonged to the commissariat of Little Cuman, the administration center of Little Cumania. It is in Baroque style and having been providing service here since 1753. I am Cuman. Lachazians are Protestants, but marriages caused this disappear too. You are seeing the last traces of the Cuman identity.
How did you learn that you are Cuman?
The information reached us by means of our traditions. We carry on these traditions in our family.
They came from Turkish television. They are looking for Cumans.
They found. We are the last Cumans. During the centuries, we mixed with the Hungarians, but we carry on our traditions.
The most important characteristics of Cumans are being honorable, patriotic, and tenacious people. They hardly accommodated themselves within this environment, so they retired into their shell and didn't mix with the local people.
Cumans carried on their story that has started with the migration of the tribes according to the oldest law of the world. They were born, grown, and believed to be extinct. But on the contrary of this belief, they continue to live with their culture in the heart of Europe, in Hungary. Nowadays, they live densely on the most fertile plain of Hungary, Alfold, in 2 regions named as Little and Great Cumania. The awareness of being Cuman is so strong in the minds of these people. When they are asked about their identity, they all give the same answer: I am Cuman.
I am Cuman, and its sign is here. I am Cuman, and so were my ancestors. They are all buried here. My father, my grandfather, his father were all Cumans.
Evet. Adım da Cuman.
Yes, my name is a Cuman name, and I'm a Cuman too. All my relatives are from here. We preserve our traditions.
We are real Cumans. I was born in Flopsallash.
For how long you haven't spoken Cuman language? Are there any words you still use?
I don't have any knowledge about it.
Let me introduce you my family. The reason I chose Türkology is that I am a Cuman too. My father stands on my right side. I learned that we are Cumans when I overheard a chat between my father and my uncle during my childhood. And I adopted this identity. For how long do we know that we are Cumans and how did we learn it?
We have known it from our childhood. It was the daily talk in our house.
On the right side of my father stands my brother. I think he is a typical Cuman. And let me introduce you my sister standing at my left. What do you think? Are we really Cumans?
We are Hungarians, but we were raised recognizing that we are Cumans too.
We are from Great Cumania and we are Protestants. We have undergone cultural changes. Cumans learn about these since their childhood. Knowledge gained in childhood leaves traces in the soul. During high school period, we learned more. We were keen on learning. We are proud of our history. Due to my interest in history and the horses, my knowledge grew and my interest in the culture of steppes converged on Cumans and Kipchaks.
I am very glad that Turkish broadcasters came here. I am honored and proud of being a Cuman and living in capital of Great Cumania, Karsak. Because this region conserves traditions of hundreds of years. The legacy we inherited from the East distinguishes itself here. Cumans have been living here for 750 years. There are 70 to 75,000 people in this region considering themselves as Cumans.
Today Hungarians and Cumans are partially mixed, but Cumans have always abided by their roots. As a matter of fact, during the tragic events in Hungary, the Cumans haven't considered themselves separate from Hungarians. They have always fought with them for their homeland and independence and made all kind of self-sacrifice. Cuman culture asserts itself distinctly in public beliefs, folk costumes and embroidering. The Cumans established rich museums in villages, towns and cities displaying articles, agricultural implements, costumes and even furniture which have been used in their regions for centuries but abandoned due to modernization, to conserve and keep alive their culture. These museums are so widespread that you can come across one in almost everywhere you go. In Hungary, the word Cuman generally means the person who lives in Cumania, but in real terms, being a Cuman means being stubborn and bullheaded, as well as the one who can support himself and the one who is loyal.
What are the main characteristics of Cumans?
They are proud in character and thick-neck people physically. This one with thick neck and mustache. The term Cuman neck has two meanings. One is the literal meaning, having a thick neck, and allegorically it means being solid and enduring in character. Cumans are independent persons.
It is possible to find tangible traces of Cuman culture in certain words which are still being used today. Linguistic research studies verify these clearly. Like their culture, the language of Cumans has been adopted to Hungarian culture gradually in the 16th century. Cuman culture lives in most geographical names, person names, and dispersed memories of language. Geographical border names that still can be seen on the map are the examples of these memories of language, because Cuman tribes have lent their names to the places they have settled in. Orgon de Saint-Miklos is a Cuman settlement in the border of Karkak city in the 15th and 17th centuries. The name means Orgundak, the Sawn Mountain, or Urganlı, having a rope in Kipchak Turkic. The name of the Karkak city means the steppe fox. The name of a cairn in this region is Bengeşgek, and it's been originated by the combination of the word bengi, meaning eternal, everlasting, and the diminutive suffix cik. It is believed that the name Kormançok has been originated from the word kurbancık and means the place of sacrifice. There are hundreds of other examples of these words. The name of Kolbaşek, which has been an important civic center between Karkak and Künhegyes, is one of them. It comes from the word kolubas, meaning a column of the army or wristband.
The language of Cumans, who have settled here under the rule of Küten Khans, was Kipchak Turkic. I mean, it was included in Kipchak group of the Turkic language family. But today, unfortunately, the language of Cumans in Hungary can be defined as a dead language.
The only extant independent document in Cuman language is Kun Miatyang, Cuman prayer. That is the translation of the Christian religion. You are our Father in the sky. May your name be blessed. May your soul be content. Just as you are both on earth and in the sky, give us our bread day by day. Make us become wiser. We accept our destiny when the order comes. Don't lead us to the evil. Save us from every malice. God, you're so powerful and almighty. Amen.
Ilme bezne aljamanna, kuktor bezne aljamanna sen börsen, boka valli bocson, ige tengere.
A man named Lucas Sapanos said this prayer on the radio in 1960s. Somebody living in Caucasia and knowing the meaning of this prayer has listened to it and phoned here. Today, there are only a few left who know this, folk songs and dances.
The Cuman prayer is thought to be taught in its original form in some elementary schools in Cumania. Researcher Istvan Mandoki Kongur of Cuman origin recomposed the corrupted Cuman prayer and the original Cuman language phonetically. During the periods when they had come into contact with the Turks, initially in their first homeland in Central Asia and lastly the Ottoman era, Hungarians have borrowed numerous words from Turkic. Most of these are related to the terms of agriculture, stock breeding and kinship. For example, Turkish word buğday, wheat is buza, arpa, barley is arpa. Tarla, field, is tarlo. Öküz, ox, is ökör. Boğa, bull, is bika. Keçi, goat, is keçke. Ana, mother, is anya. Elma, apple, is alma. Kapı, door, is kapu. Balta, axe, is balta. And deve, camel, is teve in Hungarian. If you say cebimde çok küçük elma var, there's a very small apple in my pocket, it'll sound familiar to the Hungarians because this sentence is said in Hungarian with sound-alike words as zisem ben sok kitsi alma van. Some words such as bakraç, bucket, and sabun soap, which have been borrowed during the Ottoman era, are still being used in daily life. Pabuç is another example of borrowed words, and it means shoe.
The Turkic words borrowed by the Hungarian language can be divided into three layers. The oldest one of these layers is of Bulgar-Chuvash language. The middle layer consists of the words coming from Pechenek and Cuman languages. The last and the newest layer of the borrowed Turkic words includes the words coming from the Ottoman Turkish language. Around 1,000 words from Ottoman Turkish have been used in Hungarian language.
Cep, aba, başa, betyár, csaus, o csaus tangelior, csibuk, dalia, o deliden, defter, dívány, dolmány, dzsida, findzsa, handzsár, harács, haramia, hombár, ibrik, kajszi, kalpag, kancsuka, kaszabol, ami kaszab, kávé, kefe, korbács, pite, pideden, szandzsák, yani idare, szattyán, tarhonya, tarhana, tencere, tepsi, tepsi, zseb, beszály.
In the 13th century, under the influence of Christian culture, Hungarians have forgotten most of their beliefs belonging to the Eastern culture.
This is very interesting. In the old days, there was an extraordinary custom in Great Cumania. They were hanging a horse's head to a tree for not to be affected by the evil eye. There are archaeological examples in many places too. This is a shaman tree and it is also decorated for evil eye. Because according to our beliefs, the color wind vane and the horse tail dispatch our wishes to the sky, to the god.
But the Cumans, having come to Hungary during that era and settled here definitely in the 15th century, have strengthened this old belief again. Shaman of Eastern culture has given his place to Taltosh here. The signs of his birth is him being born with teeth or an extra bone. The research studies show that the information about the state of trance and the physical change of shamans are frequently encountered in the tales, legends, and public beliefs. There is an unbelievable resemblance between the shamanism belief of Central Asia and the Turkic folk culture. In Cumans folk culture, there are interesting customs related to marriage and death. Marriage customs reflect a large number of ancient Oriental elements. The wedding flags and the sharing ceremony of the sheep's head cooked for the wedding dinner are the traditions still living in the middle of Great Hungarian Plain in Cumania. The sheep's head is still given to the most distinguished person of the community, is still one of the most important customs in the Cuman weddings. According to the custom of the Kipchaks of Central Asia, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz and Anatolian Turks, when a guest comes to the house, a sheep's head is cooked and the best parts of it are given to the guest.
For example, the custom of abduction of girl has been common, but it hasn't carried out anymore. In the wedding ceremonies, the bride's car is generally escorted by the horsemen. And the heads of the horses are decorated by scarves.
The Ulash clan, which is one of the 7 Cuman tribes having settled in Hungary, places a particular importance on Turkish history. The name of one of the oldest clans of Cumans, Ulash, is the imperative of the verb ulaşmak in Turkish, which means to unite, to form an alliance. In İçel, Ankara, Tekirdağ, Tokat, Muğla, Artvin and Edirne, this word is used as settlement name, and sometimes it is used with a suffix and becomes Ulaşlı or Ulaşlar. The conclusion drawn from all these is that the Cumans probably have dispersed during the Kipchak-Oghuz War in Central Asia, and their Ulash clan have migrated to Anatolia. These people have kept some of their customs and traditions and most of the elements of their folk arts up until today. In 1936, famous Hungarian musician Bela Bartok went to the Yuruk villages of the descendants of the Ulash clans in the Taurus Mountains to collect folk music and realized that some of their folk songs are amazingly similar to Hungarian folk songs. It wasn't a coincidence because there weren't such similarities in Yugoslav, Southern Slavonic and Greek folk songs.
Babasının eskere yolladım, Allah yollar mı geri tezkereyle bilmem.
The research studies verify that besides the influence of 1,000 years ago, there is a newer Turkic influence on Hungarian folk music, and this is the legacy of Cumans having migrated to Hungary. Bela Bartok brought up the brothers in Cumania and Çukurova, who have been pulled apart hundreds of years ago, together in music.
Of koynumdan geçmesinden boşandı. Boşandı da çölevaya döşendi. Csillag ragyog fönn az égen, juhász legény kinn a réten. Elteríti a sobáját, úgy öleli a babát.